Welcome to tyburnroad.com, where today we are refurbishing, repairing and overhauling this old Lima Class 37. As you can see, it's in fair cosmetic condition, but the wheels are pretty grubby and there are worn remains of traction tyres. Additionally, we are missing a buffer at one end, whilst at the other end both are missing and the glazing has become misplaced. I also noticed that the coupling hooks are also misshapen and in need of some TLC. Upon taking the locomotive apart, we see that the mechanism, bogies and weight are all quite dirty. The weight is covered in carbon deposits and has rusted, and whilst this doesn't affect the running of the model, we can't leave it in this state. A quick brush over with an old toothbrush and a clean with WD-40 soon has it looking much better, and the WD-40 should prevent any further rusting for the foreseeable future. Looking at the trailing bogie from below, we can see the dirty wheels and the damage to the rear coupling hook. Upon closer inspection, the coupling hook clearly also has some very noticeable corrosion. With the trailing bogie parts laid out, as well as problems with the wheels and coupling hook, we also see that the sprung pin and pickups are pretty grotty, whilst the plastic housing also looks faded and rather tired. The sprung pin and its spring are dropped into a bath of WD-40. Meanwhile, the housing is given a wipe over with plastic reviver, the coupling hook is de-rusted and straightened, and a tiny drop of oil is added where the coupling hook adjoins the bogie itself. Now it's time to address those dirt encrusted wheels, being careful to note which side of the bogie frame the insulated side of each wheel set fit into. We will have different ways of addressing wheel cleaning. I choose a combination of abrasion and polishing. If there is stubborn or encrusted dirt, I wipe over with a turp-soaked cotton bud and then scrub down with a brass bristle brush, and that's not easy to say. I then go in with the Holy Trinity for clean and sparkly wheels. I use T-Cot on a cotton bud to remove all but the most stubborn dirt, and then finish off with repeated applications and polishing off with Brasso until I have the clean I desire. Finally, I run a turp-soaked cotton bud over all the wheel's surfaces. And there we have it, beautifully cleaned wheels. Note the black circles around the axles, indicating that the insulated side of each wheel set is facing me. Next, we remove the sprung pin and spring from their break in the WD-40 bath and give them a good going over with Brasso. Having given the pickup plate the same treatment, all parts of the trailing bogie are now renovated and ready to be put back together. Now we move on to the motor bogie, which has similar problems with its bent coupling hook, rust and tired looking plastic. As with its opposite number, the coupling hook is de-rusted with the brass brush and then wiped over with WD-40 before being straightened out, and the bogie frame itself is brushed down and then given a once-over with plastic reviver. Now we come to the motor bogie itself, which looks pretty tired from the outside. The retaining clip which joins the trailing bogie to the motor looks pretty grubby, and the wheels and pickup plate also show evidence of heavy use. Upon removing the brushes from the motor, we can see that there is significant carbon on the faces and sides, although the springs themselves aren't too bad. The commutator also shows quite some dirt, along with the front motor plate. Similarly, the pickup plate is pretty grotty too. With the application of the Holy Trinity, the commutator cleans up beautifully. Similarly, the pickup plate, brushes and springs are also fully restored. With all parts of the motor bogie sorted out, we can now rebuild it. And whilst we're here, we can oil the bearings. For plastic gears, I like to use a light grease for lubrication. And with the motor reassembled and lubricated, it's time for a quick test. My apologies for the poor quality of this bit of the video. Having established, albeit somewhat cack-handedly, that the motor is working well, we can build it back into the chassis and reattach the retaining clip to the trailing bogie. Now we can brush down the body shell and give it a once-over with plastic reviver to bring it back to life. Now we move on to those missing buffers, and we need to design some for the 3D printer. A quick test fit before we paint them. And once the paint has dried, a spray with a mid-satin varnish. Having added the body shell back onto the chassis whilst the buffers were drying, it's now just a question of adding the buffers back onto the model. And we're done, all finished. This has taken around about 5 hours to complete the project from start to finish, and on my personal scale it's a 44 cotton bud restoration. And now it's time for some proper track testing. So there we have it, a complete overhaul and refurbishment from start to finish. I hope you found this either interesting or useful, or maybe even both. Thanks for taking the time to watch, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye bye.